once that chute opens, everybody's like, holy crap, like, okay, now he's safe. And then, man, once he hit the ground, I just was so happy to like see him on the ground, like pumping his fist, and like the sound and the screams. And there's no sporting event, nothing else in my life that I've ever been a part of that was like that volume of elation of like, holy crap, like that just happened.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In the Unlikely Event. I am your host, Rick Kiley, co-founder of Soho Experiential, a New York-based experiential marketing agency. Today, I'm joined by a special guest host, my business partner, Jeff Boedges. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Host is a bit strong.
You're the host with the most, man. We're happy to have you here.
But I appreciate the kindness. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is the show where we're shining light on the event pros who thrive when the stakes are enormous, the timeline is insane, and the universe itself seems to be working against them. Today's story, it's about a years-long mission that pushed the boundaries of science, engineering, event production, and human courage, and nearly fell apart because of a mysterious communication signal. Sounds like something out of a Spielberg movie, you know what I mean? So joining us today is someone who's built his career convincing the universe to cooperate even when it stubbornly refuses. We have Ben Nelson here. Ben is a 20-year veteran of the event production and entertainment world. He's led teams that produced everything from record-breaking BMX jumps in Central Park to the Red Bull Air Race in Manhattan, racing trucks on snow at Frozen Rush. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And Formula E races here in New York City. But most notably, maybe not most notably, but for today, most notably, he served as one of the producers on Red Bull Stratos, the record-setting mission where Felix Baumgartner ascended to 128,000 feet and jumped from the edge of space. Ben, welcome to In the Unlikely Event.
Thanks for having me. Pumped to be here.
We're excited to have this conversation. This event is something that captured a lot of attention. So on October 14th, 2012, millions of people around the world tuned in to watch a man step out of a capsule suspended under a helium balloon in the stratosphere and fall faster than the speed of sound. But what the world didn't see were the years of work that led to that moment. The early test launches, the unmanned drop to the manned rehearsals, the mothballing, the demothballing, the endless scrubs at 3 a.m. And then just hours before the final launch window, a mysterious communication interference threatened to shut the entire mission down. The Air Force knew what it was, but then they refused to turn it off. Dum, dum, dum. It's a tale that will make every MacGyver fan proud. Ben, let's go.
All right.
Before we get into the jump itself, can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you ended up working on such impressive events and this one?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in just a little town called Bayfields outside of Durango, Colorado. Went to school at CU, ended up traveling a bunch afterwards. I was a ski bum, and we produced some events in college for some things. And that winter, I was like, if I don't leave, then I'm never leaving. Like, I got to get out of here. Otherwise, I'm going to be a ski bum for the rest of my life.
All right. You and Jeff have something in common here because you both ended up at events post ski bum phase.
Yeah, that's shared DNA right there.
Yeah. It was tough. I have friends that never left. They're still there.
My dad asked me straight up. He's like, "Why did you leave?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to have some money."
Yeah. So if I don't, it is a very specific life, and I understand why people love it, and I could easily find myself there again. But it's one of those things like, all right, I've got some more to do. Picked up my stuff, moved to Spain for a little bit, met some people doing some events there, and then ultimately moved to New York City. I knew action sports. I knew that whole world. I decided if I wanted to do this and actually prove that I could do it, I put myself into something that I didn't know anything about at all. So I jumped into fashion, believe it or not, of all places. I landed with a group called Oboe at the time. They were building some really unique things and one-offs that I found really interesting. You know, Tommy Hilfiger and Hugo Boss and Victoria's Secret fashion show, things like that, along with obviously like tons of people. But I realized that ultimately I learned the craft, I learned detail, I learned all of those things that come along with the fashion industry. But I also realized that they're not necessarily all my people. I love the artists, but there's a lot of, we'll say, surrounding aura of additional folks that was not necessarily my jam. So I went back to producing sports and met the guys in Red Bull at the time in New York, and it was really starting to kick off that event program. They were doing a lot of really ambitious stuff, and so same thing. Like I You know, I kind of just said, hey, I want to throw my hat in the ring, met some folks, and was afforded some opportunities pretty early on. I was probably way too young and in charge of way too much money, and we made it happen. There was built this, going into Central Park and built this giant quarter pipe, and he broke the world record. And so we went on to do some things like that, and kind of just found this niche of, if it's unique, if it's different, if it's a little bit hard, that's kind of what I really liked. So
Awesome.
we got to break some world records. We got to kind of work into it. So that you mentioned Frozen Rush, they came to us and said, hey, we want to race some off-road short course trucks, like Baja trucks, but we want to do it on snow, and we want to do it in the middle of winter in Maine. Can you help? And we're like, heck yeah. Then again, It's not just me. There's a bunch of us that we kind of all threw our expertise in the ring, and we made it happen for 3 years straight.
And pretty soon you're attached to an event that is about to set several records. So that's pretty cool. That's great. Okay. So I don't think probably most people are aware of the amount of effort that it takes to pull off a stunt like what happened here with Red Bull Stratos. Can you give everybody just an overview of the mission as a whole? I really want to help paint the picture of the scale of the operation here.
And if you don't mind, give us a little background too on. That's not something most people say. You know what I want to do? I want to jump out of the stratosphere. I mean, so somebody brainstormed this someplace, and I want to know who those people were.
There's a lot. I mean, truly, and you guys are familiar with this, like the business planning phase where you're throwing stuff against the wall. I hold Red Bull dear to my heart as far as a company is concerned.
Yeah.
Working with them on business planning and how they come up with things, and, throwing these ideas at the wall. We always have a hand in, we'll toss out 20 ideas per year just to see if they'd be interested in it.
Okay, cool.
There's a big aviation component to that company as well. And I invite people to look it up. Like Dietrich, as far as the owner, has this huge hangar. Like he is a aviation aficionado, and I think that also really resonated with him. So there's a ton of people, and again, before we get too deep, I'm a very, very small tooth in the giant cog of this entire program, but there's a lot of really talented folks that were part of it, and it took a really long time. We landed in Roswell, the first iteration, even before I was a part of it. There's a very good friend of mine named Nick, who actually had moved out of the event industry, and then he kind of had this handoff of, hey, Stratos is still going to happen. But they did this entire look at in the Pacific Northwest and weather patterns and all these things. It's built around a weather balloon platform, right? So you bring in a lot of these different expertise pieces, and when we get to the ground, you go all the way down to working with locals for restrooms and RVs, and how do we feed all these people, and there's a lot that goes into that. So it's a big endeavor. We went from the first unmanned mission, there was probably 25 of us by the time we actually started launching balloons and launching the capsule, 25, 30. And by the time you get to the end, just the people on site, by the time you had press and you had support and you had families and you had all these things, there's hundreds of people on this tiny little spot.
Wow.
And don't forget the Martians.
Martians, yeah.
There's usually 3.
We're not supposed to talk about that, but
okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, different episode.
I wasn't briefed on that part. We'll edit it out in post.
Yeah.
So I mean, people wise, that's huge operation. How many years? Because it's years before the actual stunt happened. Before 2012, did this start?
So like I said, that first iteration, they spent probably a year or 2 years figuring this out, and finally came to the conclusion, it just can't happen in the Pacific Northwest with the way that the jet stream was working and the currents and all the things, and the danger of going into the ocean. That was the original plan, was a splashdown. So then reworked it, figured out these pieces, and then Roswell came to be. And so that kind of reset the team. But, that was early on the days of Red Bull Media House, and how can we bring all these components together, and how can we even shoot it? So there's yet another team that comes in, and they have this super long telescope. They're used to, shooting launches. And so they have to reconfigure and figure out how to track a man as he falls from space, or near space, I should say. So there's just a lot of that, and figuring out these pieces, okay, now we have this problem, who can solve that problem?
Okay. But you think all in?
By probably 5 to 7 years at least.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, great.
Wow.
That is, I can't get a client sometimes to approve a budget for something happening 6 months from now.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned Red Bull, and I think Jeff will agree with me. Red Bull has been the brand that has been on the vanguard of testing the limits of what experiential marketing can do. They are a wonderful client to work with.
They are the torchbearer for the industry. Yeah.
The notion of being able to, even as a brand, commit to an activation that would have a 5-year runtime seems unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
The foresight, the teams that I'm sure inevitably changed over, like people running the brand, new people coming in, old people leaving, like that
with a
is
fairly substantial chance of failure. I mean, you know, it's one thing to produce events like to say, oh, we're going to do a concert in Central Park. It's been done 100 times.
Okay.
Even to do a jump in Central Park, but to do a jump out of a balloon at 129,000 feet, that may not happen.
You know, one question, I'm just curious. So speaking of Red Bull, did they have a stated goal? Like, what was Red Bull looking to get out of the experience for their brand?
You know,
did you have enough exposure to them to understand?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I would say, and this is conjecture, so like, you know, it goes with the asterisk of what the conversations I was a part of, right? Like I wasn't obviously behind the doors of all these conversations, but I think that it was also a big play in the sense that my experience with Red Bull, especially because we were doing things that were hard and we're doing things that were difficult, and in a lot of cases that had never been done in that way before or breaking records, is the willingness to say it is difficult and we can do it, right?
Right.
This was the first time that really an international live to everybody stream happened, right? And I think that that was a big stated goal.
Right.
How can we show as a brand what is possible, right? Like there's this belief that like there is an edge and we can push it beyond that. And again, like I love that brand for what they've done for me and for everybody else, but there is this belief like we do it the best and we're not going to cut corners and we're not going to like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it the right way. I don't think they anticipated it taking 7 years. I think that is one of those things that like, okay, we got a plan. Like we're going to do it in Pacific Northwest. And it just became like, we can't do it this way. Let's take a beat. And then but to your point, like the wherewithal to stay in it instead of just saying, you know what, we're going to go move on to the next one. Take a minute, figure out something else, completely reset the geography, find new people that understand the weather patterns. Like, you know, there's a meteorologist that could tell you if a raindrop was going to fall. It was incredible.
Stupid question. Is Red Bull, and I should know this, Red Bull privately owned or publicly?
Privately owned.
That makes a big difference in the ability for companies to stay the course on projects like that. If you have to answer to shareholders, it'll never happen. You'll never see a corporation doing that.
So let's just talk specifically, Ben. You mentioned, of course, there's this huge number of individuals working on this mission to bring it live. Just specifically, what was your role? So the listening audience understands.
I mean, the easiest way to describe it is like the director of ground operations, right? Like, so we, as far as the base is concerned, as far as everything goes in and out, comes in, like logistics, you know, we were the first in, last out kind of program. We basically set the stage, and we say this a lot of times, right? Like we built the stage for other people to dance on. That's our job. Like we make sure that everything is ready to go for comms and for media and for everything else. Like we're there to make sure that everything happens, and we're the glue in between all these parts.
So then take us to Roswell. So if you're the director of ground operations, what did that look like? People might have this idea of something out of mission control for a NASA mission. I'm guessing it probably wasn't that if you're building something in the middle of Roswell, New Mexico.
No, and
what was life? What was life like there? What did you create? What did you build?
We built it on the Roswell airport there. There's a big section of that runway. They have there's like kind of an old airplane graveyard out there too, which is actually really cool. But so there's kind of us off on this side piece of their runway. We were out of that flight line. We obviously had to coordinate with them when things were coming in and out of there. But essentially it was just a bare piece of land and an old shed when we started.
Did you paint a big bullseye?
We did not. That was frowned upon.
That would have been my contribution.
No. Which shed were the aliens in?
The one adjacent, actually, we had to figure out. The one we picked was a lot less aliens, a lot more spiders, a lot more scorpions. That's one we chose. I mean, you're in the middle of the New Mexico desert, right? Like that wildlife exists there anyway. Like you have rattlesnakes, you have spiders, but it's going in and saying, hey, we have a scientific piece of equipment that has a fairly sensitive, you know, you have to open it up and you got to work on comms and all those things. So we had to go in and like fully clean out this. It truly was just like an old shed. You've got rodents, you've got all these things, and you know, there's literally hundreds and hundreds of black widows all over the spot, and we just make it livable, right? Yeah, it was crazy.
Wait, so how did you get rid of all of the poisonous spiders?
Constant battle, man. You don't necessarily get rid of them. You just kind of like get that generation and then deal with the next one as it comes, right?
Were there like inoculations to venom? How many spider bites were there? What happened?
Actually, we got away with very few. There were some, but we got away. Like, it was mostly just like, hey, pay attention. Like, don't just grab something. You have to be very aware of. I mean, and that was a very small part of your life, but yeah, like it was pretty ubiquitous. There's spiders everywhere. There's scorpions everywhere.
All of our kids out there listening and thinking about, I want to go into experiential. This is the shit you're dealing with. Yeah.
Well, I'll
You
refer to
might
this a
die
lot.
from a
Like,
spider bite. Yeah.
yeah, we sort of self-named the operations guys came to me one day, and I don't even remember how it started, but you know, we're out there and doing the cleaning, we're dealing with RVs, we're dealing with like all this stuff, and so lovingly the term for all the guys, they started calling themselves the space janitors. That was really the
Love it.
yeah, the loving term that got coined.
A good band name. Good
Yeah,
band
Space
name.
janitors.
Space
Yeah.
janitors. Yeah.
So once we showed up, started with not that many of us overall, and it grew. So, you know, unmanned mission version 1, we had the shed, and we had maybe one mobile mini that we brought in. That was enough for us. And then, but over time, you know, we would go and then they'd do the test, they get the data, then we'd have to come back. We would show up probably 2 weeks early. We'd add more trailers. We started to paint things, like talk about Red Bull and taking pictures and like, oh, we're adding a logo here. We're painting all these trailers to be gray and white.
Right.
Red Bull also they still use them a little bit, but they're called energy stations. I'm sure you've seen them like at X Games and things like that, but it's kind of like this half dome construction, which is super cool for like a 2-day activation at a concert or at an X Games program, right? It's literally just steel deck, truss, and a skin. That's all that it is. And then, you know, some plastic front doors. So it's not designed to live in this type of environment or to be airtight, right? And you get Roswell, New Mexico, there are windstorms that are just solid and will whip for 2 days straight, and just dust storms. So we're just constantly battling that. So we started with one energy station. The next mission, we'd add another trailer. We'd add, you know, more of this. We'd add some RVs. We'd clean this thing up. We'd add some more logos. We'd keep going through this and just kind of like sharpening our sword a little bit each time. Like, hey, these pictures need this. Hey, when we jump from the sky, we'll have pictures from the sky. So we need to line out our cars in this way. Like, it became this puzzle of like, how can we get a little bit better? How can we dial this a little bit more?
Got it. Wow. It's crazy just to get to the point where you're even talking about testing this thing happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
How do you test it? You said their guy did 15 jumps, but are you dropping a mannequin out first or anything like that?
No mannequin
Just a
throws.
couple of cases of Red Bull, Jeff.
Yeah,
exactly. Just tie it. So there's a lot to that. So the testing component, there's so much that goes into the athletic ability of somebody flying through the air, right, and falling. So Felix is a very accomplished diver, but on top of that, you then throw him into a spacesuit, essentially, right? So which is a completely different thing. The biggest concern was learning how to adapt from almost no atmosphere into atmosphere. So most skydivers, you jump out of a plane, you have full atmosphere, you're in control of yourself the entire time. When you jump out at such an altitude, if you jump out in the wrong direction or in the wrong way, you can create inertia that once you start hitting atmosphere, it turns you into a pinwheel, essentially. And at a certain RPM, your brainstem disconnects from your brain and you're dead. It's just the way it is. So there was so much jumping and so much training and so much things that were existing outside of even what we saw. So that's really like just the jump itself was one huge component. Then the data and all the telemetry and all those things, and even being able to track somebody as they jump out, right? Like, how was he doing? So we would gather everything up. The team would get the capsule ready. There's an entire comms team that had their program. You had the balloon team. They lay it all out on the runway. It's like the most sensitive. I think is 1/10 the thickness of saran wrap as the balloon itself. And you had to literally physically lay it out on a runway, on a flight line, and then fill it with helium and then let this thing go and then chase underneath it to where it's swing and release. So there's like a million things that all have to go right.
I worked at a party city. I could have totally handled it. I've inflated thousands of balloons.
I mean, I threw all that out there to say like that testing protocol, there's a lot of it, right? So the first unmanned missions we talked about, there's 2 of them, and they actually hung, it looks like a, you know, those like little like missile things your kids throw in the pool and they kind of like zoom. It's like a little like bomb looking thing. It looked just like that. They hung this out and they would drop that off of the capsule and figure out speed and telemetry and what was happening and, you know, wind shear. Like there's all these things that go into it that were obviously not part of my purview, but we were listening to things that could go wrong. You know, things from even, I didn't realize this, but there's atmospheric rivers, obviously, that go through, but there's at a point, like 2 of them can be so close. The balloon was tall enough, especially as it was ascending before it got fully inflated. You hit a wind shear, it would just cut the balloon in half.
Wow.
I threw a lot out there, but there's a lot that was being tested.
I need to stop you for a second because I've still haven't quite recovered from your
disconnected
brain
stem.
steps from your brain stem.
That's a real thing.
That can happen in sampling events, Rick. I mean,
I know. Here on the ground, just outside of a Sunoco. Okay. That is an insane amount of effort to make one thing happen. And I know that you were also dealing with a lot of variables here that you can't control. You talked about the atmosphere, we've got weather, we've got all these different things. So from what I've read and from what you've told me, there were a lot of scrubs, a lot of starts and stops, a lot of having to set up and start over. So for people who don't understand what that might mean,
sure,
can you sort of walk through what your day is like when you're planning to do something like this, but the whole thing gets washed away and you have to reset? Like, what does that look like? And how many times did you have to go through it?
Oh man, a lot. I mean, I think so the day itself, it starts in the middle of the night. The launch is designed to be timed at or around sunrise, right? And for a lot of different reasons. So we would start that clock and it's like, all right, cool. We've been there for probably a week, maybe 2 at that time.
Sure.
The clock starts probably like, 1, 2 in the morning-ish, depending on which launch it was and what we were trying to do. And so we have, our team is on and constant. So you have like people going out to the flight line and setting up the balloon, and the Air Force team is out there, and we're running through just a giant checklist of comms. Felix has to be suited up, and they had this customized Airstream trailer with a Suburban that would pull him physically out to the flight line because they can get him suited up and get him sorted out before he has to get in the capsule. There's a bunch of things moving, but there's also a lot of things that can happen. So, you're counting on, we have a meteorologist that's there physically, and he is one of the best people I've like the way that he could determine data based on what was happening.
Does he have one of those green screens though? Where he's like,
yeah, I asked him.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, it would be cooler.
I'll tell you anecdotes about that after we talk about this, but quite literally there was one night where we set everything up. We are probably, I don't know, a couple hours from, it's probably 3 in the morning, somewhere in there. And all of a sudden this giant horde of like a plague of locusts. I don't know what it is things, but like literally like hundreds of thousands of bugs.
Plague's a good word.
Just like immediately. And it's everything. Like, you could not take a step without stepping on 5 of them. Like I've never seen that before.
Wow.
That many grasshopper locusts, like they're covering the balloon, they're covering everything there. And so we had to stop. We're getting pretty close, and the weather was super favorable. Everything looked good. Felix was ready to go. Like his mindset was ready to go. And literally it's like, cool, bugs.
That's when God's against you. At that point,
yeah. I mean, so we had to,
did you guys have a priest on site? Somebody you could
well, after that, not before that. So it's one of those like sharpening things that we learned time over time.
As long as it's not raining frogs, though, you're probably okay.
Yeah, that would be a big deal in Roswell for sure.
And so when these things happen, you mentioned your job was sort of first in, last out. So it sounds like this might have been a longer day for you than most people. Is that a fair assessment? Or
we had to get really good at rotating crew, and we're running on a pretty lean crew of really capable people, right? But you can't all be awake all the time. And if you have 3 scrubs in a row, you're essentially awake for 3 or 4 straight days. And at a certain point, we've all been there, but like there's a limit to where you
I'm
can
sorry,
function.
I have not been there. I have not been awake for 3 or 4 scrubs in a row. Like
I was awake that long once, but it was at a concert, and
it was
totally different. Yeah, Red Bull definitely played a role in it. Slightly different role.
But no, it's just all the things that from big stuff and resetting and refueling everything down to, hey, now all of a sudden we have to plan for everybody to be here an extra day, which means food and restrooms and cleaning and reset. Like we got to a point where there's an expectation, just like as it should be. Like we want to operate at the highest possible level we can.
Yeah.
we would be there a couple hours before everybody and we'd be there 4 to 5 hours after. But if you say, we start at 1 in the morning, that means our folks need to be there by 8, 9 at night. And then if it scrubs at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, we've got another 3 hours to go or 4 hours to go before we're done and we can come back and get ready for the next reset. So it's just like a constant, like, we don't know when the end of this is going to be. So it's just this playing of like, how do you take care of your people? How do you plan for the food? How do you plan for all of these things, especially in a place like Roswell, which is a lovely town, but there's not a ton of resources in Roswell, New Mexico, right? So trying to figure out and play that game is always interesting.
Okay, I want to talk about this main event, this crazy thing that happened. After all the scrubs, after everything, we're down to what is launch day, correct? This is what we're talking about, the day that it actually happened.
Yep.
And suddenly there is an anomaly, a communication anomaly between the capsule and mission control. Is that right? Like, can you explain what happened here?
Okay. We're in awesome shape. We're ready to go. I get called to mission control and they're saying, hey, we're seeing this anomaly because Ed Riedel, who was doing all the comms and what was going on in the capsule, and they're seeing this just full blip of comms drop.
So that means you couldn't be in touch, right? The comms drop means like no communication.
So you didn't get vitals, you couldn't get comms. I mean, I don't know exactly what everyone, but it was substantial, and it was enough that it was going to cancel the mission for at least the day and for the unforeseeable future because we didn't know what was going on.
In Roswell, New Mexico, I can tell you what's going on, dude.
It's the third time we're bringing this up. It's aliens.
Yeah, it's aliens, man. Yeah.
So part of that is the Air Force was with us. They were, one of the teams running the balloons, and they had a seat in mission control and they had their own trailer. And so they asked them, hey, make a call. Can we see what's going on? And can we at least, even just for our launch window, can we like just turn off whatever that is? And again, I wasn't on the phone, but the gist of what was said was relayed to me as, yes, we know what it is. No, we're not going to turn it off. And no, we're not going to tell you what it is. So everybody's talking.
So,
like, how are we
all right, this is the signal that was keeping the aliens at bay, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
I think it was the aliens, dude.
So we took a couple of our ops guys and we're like, you guys get in a bunch of trucks and fan out. And we sent everybody with a wad of dollars in their pockets, and we bought all of the tinfoil we could find in like a 35-mile radius from Roswell, New Mexico.
Yeah, hold on one second though, before you get into this. So I want to ask two quick things. So one, how close to the launch are you where you're aware of this signal blocking you? How close are we from?
Felix was already in the capsule.
Felix was in the capsule.
Yeah. Felix getting suited up, getting out to the flight line, getting in that capsule, like going through all of his checks. Like he's mentally prepared also. Like that's a big piece of it, is like, what is his mental state as well?
Right. I'm trying to contextualize how much time you have to solve this problem. Is this
2 hours, maybe?
2 hours. So 2 hours, or you have to scrub if everybody there doesn't figure out a way to stop this signal from interfering.
Right.
How did you get to the, so you said everyone's fanning out to go get tinfoil. How did the idea of tinfoil come up? Like whose idea was this?
New York City crazies with the tinfoil on there.
Yeah.
And he just the
we were
aliens
just throwing
away.
stuff at the wall. Like I asked the question. I was like, is this going to work? And I was like, dude, we don't know. We have no, like, probably not, but we're trying. We're going to try everything.
Somebody came up with the idea of, we're going to use tinfoil to try to interfere with the signal. Was that the only idea? Were there other ideas out there?
No. So Riedel on the comm side, they're going through all their things. They're trying to reconfigure things. They're taking components out and putting components in. And at the same time, as you know, like, crap, we've already scrubbed once, and it's the manned mission. Red Bull spent an enormous amount of time and money, like advertising it. Hey, tune in. Like you can't keep pushing that down the road because you lose viewership also, right? So there's like a really heavy feeling of like, we have to figure this out. We can't scrub again. We can't drop again. It has to go today.
Was there like a giant meeting around like a giant circular table with like all of the heads of the programming saying,
no, but there's a room. Yeah.
Everybody go? Or
I honestly don't remember where that meeting happened. I think it was a kind of a continuation of like, pardon my French, but like, oh shit, like how are we going to keep this going? Right. So like, and you're already going. So the mission like still has to keep. So mission control's on, like they're having conversations, they're doing their checklists. And so there's a certain number of us, they're like, we're going to go take off and start solving this problem. You guys keep going. Like, just keep going.
So you were on team tinfoil, like
team tinfoil.
Team tinfoil.
Yep.
Space janitors.
So space janitors took vehicles and tinfoil and explain to me what you were doing.
No, so we just said, hey, we've got, like, let's figure out how we can block this. Like, what you guys figure out if you can change components, whatever that might be. Worst case scenario, can we block the signal at least enough to get off the ground, right? So we sent a bunch of guys in trucks and went out, like I said, literally like every gas station and every grocery store, all 8 of them, we bought everything out. And quite literally, we took a temporary fence panel, wrapped it with as much tinfoil as we possibly could to create this foil barrier, and then made it pretty. We took a piece of black scrim and made it nice and tight and clean. You know, there's already equipment out.
It pretty.
Yeah, as pretty as you can, right? So we literally strapped it to the front of this, 15K forklift and just rolled it slowly out to the flight line and then slowly raised it up.
And it was just one of these things that you made.
Just one.
Right. Okay.
Yep. And good luck getting a good piece of lasagna in Roswell after that for a month.
The lasagna is fine, just you can't heat it up properly. Yeah.
Do you think all those stores like started to reorder tinfoil as if someone was going to come in once a year?
I will tell
and
you,
just buy up all the tinfoil in town.
No, I don't think that's the thing. Starbucks did. Starbucks had a thing where that was like when they launched their juices, there was so many people, like it's hard to find vegetables there, frankly. So we started all going and getting like 5 or 6 juices every single morning at Starbucks. And to where the point they became the #1 seller of the juices in the country for like 2-week period of time. And then so they reordered. They called us. They're like, hey, we have way too much juice now that you guys have left. Anyway, so yeah, we had to create this thing. So we're going through it, put the tinfoil on the fence, wrap it in scrim, we'll hoist it up. And truly, it was one of those things like it worked just enough to like we had to figure out where it was coming from and kind of like move it around. But it's actually my little brother, Matt Nelson, was sitting on the forklift and hoisting it up and we're like calling him on the radio, like a little bit down, a little bit up.
If you were a kid in the 70s, you remember what it was like adjusting the tinfoil on top of your television. So this is
it was a little bit of that just to get the signal to come in a little better, but you're trying to block the signal.
What was the tinfoil budget?
I have to go back and look. It wasn't a big number comparatively, but it was not an insignificant number.
You guys were over on tinfoil.
It probably didn't cost as much as his suit.
The audit on tinfoil was a tough one to get through, but we made it.
Okay. You got to the point where it worked well enough and everybody lined up and said, go, 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 go. Again, I'm imagining, the Apollo 11 liftoff.
There's some of that for sure.
Tinfoil was like, okay.
Yeah. And everybody's like, yeah. Hey, do we got tinfoil? Fuck yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Throw that guy off the prep.
Right. Yeah. So then take us to the launch.
The launch was probably one of the most stressful things.
What did it feel like to get to the launch? And then when did you finally feel like a sense of relief? Like this, we pulled this off.
So that launch morning, the balloon is laid out on the flight line. They start inflating it, and the capsule is held literally by a crane. And what has to happen is once that balloon has enough helium in it, there's a trailer that basically releases the weight. It's a big weighted trailer. And the crane has to drive underneath at speed and straight and follow that balloon to get it to a place where it doesn't pendulum out. So it has to drive underneath it. So even just that alone takes a pretty skilled hand.
I could do that.
Yeah. My skill ends at the tinfoil. I wouldn't be driving the trailer.
So they get that off, and so the balloon is up, and the capsule's still there, and so he's ascending, and everybody's like, "Oh my goodness! Like it's on! It's finally happening! We've been here so many times. Like this is it, right?" So then you have, and it takes a while to ascend. So you have all these checks, and you're getting all these cool images, and like we have our own trailer. Our ops team has a trailer, and we get all the feeds. We have a couple TVs up, so we get to see almost everything that Mission Controls gets to see. We have like the comms feeds. He gets to the point where we've seen it this way, but we've never seen him this high before. And that's where it starts to become really intense. Like, okay, he's never been up there. All the things that you start thinking about, like that we've heard of, like, hey, he has to exit a certain way. He has to drop a certain way. There's, recovery. Do we have telemetry on him? Can you see him through that? There's literally like a telescope truck that's zoomed in on watching him jump out. The media house frenzy that's happening in the other energy station, like tons of on-site press. We'd built this entire like platform for all this international media. Like it's a zoo. He gets to the spot. He says, I'm coming home, jumps off. And a lot of people see that. Like the really famous thing is him jumping off, right? Because that's the point. What a lot of people don't remember or don't necessarily notice is once he falls off, he fell crooked like that. And he starts falling and he starts to tumble. And all of us, like I genuinely, I just got chills like on the back of my neck because we all know what that means, right? You can't say it out loud. Nobody's going to talk about it. The comms from mission control drop. We can't hear anything because we're not in that space. So we just see the imagery, and he starts to tumble. And in my brain, I thought he was dead. I thought he was going to die. I thought we were broadcasting killing somebody to the world. But he gets to the spot, and you see him throw an arm out like this, and he steadies himself. And I can hear, like, we're outside of mission control. And I hear everybody's like, "Bah!" This like, holy shit. Okay. All right. Next hurdle. Like, we got to cross it. Like, all right. So then, he gets through. They get him on the telescope truck, get him all the way down. And then he's like, you have some comms, you can hear him breathing. Then you hear him come through on the radio, like, oh, cool. Like he's actually awake too, right? Like that's another part of it. It's like, can he keep consciousness? He's breaking the sound barrier. Like we're tracking this telemetry. Like nobody really knew what that was going to do to his body, right? Like going 800 plus miles an hour, breaking the sound barrier. Nobody has any idea what that's going to do to him. Does that, makes it through. Hooray. Finally, then he hits a chute. And like, once that chute opens, everybody's like, holy crap. Like, okay, now he's safe. Like at least he's under chute. And then, man, once he hit the ground, I just was so happy to like see him on the ground, like pumping his fist, and like the sound and the screams. And there's no sporting event, nothing else in my life that I've ever been a part of that was like that volume of elation of like, holy crap, like that just happened.
What a feeling. What a feeling that must have been. And that's so many records, like broke the sound barrier. Some people broke the sound barrier in a jet, but never by themselves.
Under gravitational power only. Yeah.
And
so there's like there's a bunch of them. There's like exit altitude, vertical speed, vertical distance of a free fall. Like there's a bunch of those that all made a bunch. Yeah.
And then you mentioned the YouTube thing. So that YouTube stream was, I think, 9.5 million people tuned in, which was a shattering record at the time. That was also just hugely game changing in terms of how people tune into stunts, live events, live experiences. That simulcast, I think, also was groundbreaking as well. It was just tremendous.
Truly hats off to the media house folks for like pulling that together. There's some incredible people that I got to work with. And I really love projects like that too. And I'm sure you guys have been through this, like when it starts at such a small team, you start with these 25 people and they're really, really good at it. And you're living in like close quarters for a very long period of time. You get to know them really well.
Sure.
And the media program, again, there's probably 20 episodes of the podcast that you could talk about just for what they had to get over, because it was the first of its kind on that scale, right? And again, you're in Roswell. Like we're dealing with sat trucks and like generators and redundancies and any of those types of things. And there's a million things that can go wrong. Like we had 2 sat feeds, but if your sat feed goes out, like you're done. There's a lot of these different things that all had to go right. And on one very particular day, it all lined up and it all worked.
Amazing.
I think we need to do the Evel Knievel re-jump the Snake River Canyon, but this time we make it happen. I mean,
I'm in.
Come on, dude. You tell me you wouldn't tune in for that.
Ben's in. As long as we have some aliens, I'm in.
Shit, I say this all the time. Anything is possible with time and money.
There you go. We got to start wrapping up soon. This has been really an amazing conversation. What a great, groundbreaking stunt and project to be involved in. I'm just curious, this was early in your career and quite a big thing. I'm curious if you feel like once you had gone through the experience, is there a lesson learned that you wished day one Ben knew? Like, don't touch the Black Widow spiders.
No. I mean, I think we knew it was important, and we knew what we were doing was really unique, but it also doesn't mean that other business stops, right? So like at the same time, like I'm working on a Red Bull soapbox. And so like I had to leave at one point and leave early and leave my team and like go run a Red Bull soapbox at the same time, like in a completely different space. And like trying to do this like mind shift of like running this business, do these things. I think I would have given myself a little bit more space or said no more, to be honest with you, and experienced it. I think we're also focused sometimes on like get the next thing, add as much to our plate as we possibly can. That's one thing that I've learned for sure is how do you say no so you can be a little bit more present. But there's nothing we could have changed about that. I think it afforded us some other opportunities as well to go and do other things, like you said, Frozen Rush and some of these other things. Like it's nice to have a reputation of somebody that can pull something off.
And your own confidence in your own abilities, I would think, has to grow exponentially from that type of experience. I mean, if you can say to yourself, man, nothing is going to be nuttier than driving around buying tinfoil to save a multi-million-dollar launch. Yeah, you start to feel like there is no problem insurmountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what was, I mean, I think that's the drug of the event industry, man. I think to me, it really is. I have probably watched maybe half of the things that we've built. Like it's the build up, it's the lead up, it's the people that are building it with us, and that make it go around and making it go away. There's some extraordinary people, and I'm so thankful. Like in the event industry, we also quite often discount the fact that we get to choose the people we work with for the most part. Like I get to choose my crew. When we go do this, I'm going to handpick the best people like I can to go do this thing with me. And there's not a lot of people that get to say that.
Now I know why I haven't been involved.
Yeah. So I think, it takes us to our last question, which you sort of, already provided an answer for. Well, I'll just let you elaborate. Why do you keep doing this with all the insanity, with all the chaos? What keeps drawing you back to wanting to break records, do bigger stunts, keep working in the industry at all?
I think there's a very specific segment of people that's the way their brain works. That's the way my brain works, right? Like I really love a puzzle. I really love the people that we work with. I love the speed of it. There's definitely days where you're like, why the hell are we doing this? Don't get me wrong. Like we do podcasts and it's like, this is the sparkle, right? But like the funny stories now are the things that were awful then, right? Like it's that type 2 fun of, man, we were awake for 37 hours. We infested Hammerstein Ballroom with crickets, which is another story we'll talk about one time. But it's the people that get through it. It's the people that you're with more than anything else, right? That's why I keep doing it and why, I encourage people to get into this and continue going. I'm on the other end. Like I'm phasing out essentially of that space, right? Like at this point, I'm the old timer when everybody else is coming out. So it's my job to make sure that everybody has those tools. But I will say it's working with clients like a Red Bull that want to do it the right way, that also brings you back, right? Like there's a lot of ways to cut corners, but doing things the right way really matters. And that's when things just sing and are beautiful.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. A great answer.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with this, man. I think that the other question is, my wife asked me the same question one time. It's like, I've been able to watch sunrises and sunsets on mountains and in valleys and in deserts. And I think I've been able to say today was a good day more than people get to in 10 lifetimes.
It's a great way to look at it. It's beautiful. Awesome, man. I think that's where we're gonna leave it. I really want
you can't get better than that.
Yeah, really. Thank you so much for sharing this amazing story with us. Thanks for reminding us solutions don't always come from the blueprint, but they come from people who are willing to work on the problem together. Until the next unlikely thing goes surprisingly right, I'm Rick Kiley, and this has been In the Unlikely Event. Thanks for listening to In the Unlikely Event, where we unpack the moments that went wrong and celebrate the people who made them right. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And hey, while you're at it, drop us a review or share this episode with a fellow event pro who's been through their own little disaster. You can catch more great content by following Unlikely Event on YouTube, Unlikely Event Pod on Instagram and TikTok, and Soho EXP on LinkedIn. I'm Rick Kiley, and I'll see you next time, right here on In the Unlikely Event.